Okay, so I'm gonna make these videos because aside from encountering like a corrupt judge, I think I've encountered crazy people, like people that are either like really really dumb or just really like careless because they can be because it's like they're still living in a time in America where people could screw other people over and just get away with it. Um, but it doesn't happen like that anymore. And like I was gonna make all these videos on Premiere, but it just takes too much time. So I'm just gonna do a screen, like just screenshot and then just go through Bonnyman's like crazy order and just show how like absolutely absurd it is. Aside from the fact that it's unlawful and I'm not dropping this ever. Let's just go. So here is first page of her judgment, right? Keep in mind, this all took place after I had reiterated a jury demand. So it's not bad enough that there was like a very valid motion to recuse. I have her office like identifying her former business partner like recorded. I mean just like what is this woman thinking? Like this like where there's smoke there's fire, and if she pulled this with me with how much evidence I have, like a thorough investigation is needed. Absolutely, because like this means she's been getting away with a lot of bad stuff for a long time. Okay, so let's move on. So she filed this order of judgment after ignoring my jury demand, which I'm going to do a whole nother video on there. But let's go through it. Let's go through the damages. Based upon the sworn testimony and paper evidence presented at the hearing on December 20th, 2017, the court finds the plaintiff is entitled to a monetary award and is awarded a judgment against the defendant as follows. Okay, so this entire case has been going on for almost a year. I have never, when she says paper evidence, I have never seen one piece of paper evidence, nothing. No direct evidence of any kind has ever been provided at all. I said that in my initial hearing, and it's true. So apparently, at this December 20th one where I wasn't there, which came after, like, apparently there's some new paper evidence. It's total bullshit. This woman's a scam. There is no paper evidence. This guy never suffered any damages. But let's go through this really quick. For non-payment of rent until the new tenants took possession of the rental, 2,700. Okay, I was paying $1,800 a month. Um, I was in good standing up until I got sued by these. You know, I want to try and keep this like so little kids can watch it, but just degenerate, people that happen to live in Tennessee, like just low life of the low life. Douglas Fisher, Bill Jakes, and Claudia Bonnyman. They are not upstanding citizens of any kind. They are scammers and con artists. And that's my opinion, but I also have a lot of evidence to prove it, and I'm going to show it. So let's go through real quick. Where non-payment of rent. Um, it's not like I'm some deadbeat who didn't pay my rent because I couldn't afford it. I didn't pay my rent because these guys dragged me into a year-long lawsuit. And I stopped paying my check. I was like, listen, I'm not going to live in a house where where two lawyers, my landlord owned a law firm, and the guy that was representing him was one of his employees. I'm not going to live in a house where like a guy is like suing me for nonsense. For removing garbage and repairs, painting utilities, and preparing. What is that? Like, that wasn't even part of any of the initial complaints. None of this was. But anyway, just for fun, let's go back over here. So, there was a few things that I picked out very quite simply. I was going to do it in Premiere, but it's just taking too long. All right, so here's her judgment. I was going to identify these two pieces. Then I said, oh shit, like what the fuck? This is so stupid. And it is. Here we go. So this is one of the first, I think this is the first email I got from Douglas Fisher. And it says, today I interview blah, 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 blah. So this guy goes over to my house. I'm in Asia, and he sees some girls there or something, and he accuses me of operating an illegal Airbnb without a permit while I'm, on vacation. Um, like, it's not illegal. It's like, at the worst, it's a civil infraction in Nashville, and you get like a $50 ticket, but you get a warning first. He never got a warning. I never got a warning. This guy just wanted to make money off a scam, which is what I assume he's done his whole life. So anyway, but more importantly, there's a key line in this email, and it says, "I suggest we plan to meet." This guy's blind. He's like 90 years old. That's why he's writing so huge compared to everything else. He said, he actually has one eye. So whatever. I'm not knocking people with one eye, but this guy's just such a POS that like I just don't like him. Anyway, I suggest we plan to meet April 1st to settle a cancellation of your lease. I s- where is this? I suggest we plan to meet April 1st to settle a cancellation of your lease. I suggest you get your furniture out of there before then. His suggestion was to cancel the lease. Okay, perhaps. I don't know, but he encouraged it. This is the landlord telling me to get my shit out. Not that I had to because I had a valid contract, but anyway. So let's go to hearing number one. And what's funny about hearing number one is this is a court reporter that recorded a whole first hearing. And even in like the first hearing, there is so much garbage, so much absolute garbage. It's mind blowing. But anyway, at the end of this, towards the end of this, they served me an amended complaint, which generally speaking, I really don't think you can't provide new evidence during like a trial or a hearing. Like you have to like I thought this was like, here, don't do Airbnb. I'm like, cool, I'm not doing Airbnb. I agreed to it. And then after like it's almost all said and done, like I thought it was case closed. They filed me with an amended complaint, which I called a sham, and it ended up being a sham. But I said, Judge, where was the other piece of that? There was the first part. Where'd it go? Hearing number one. Okay, so I said this. I said, I don't quite understand in terms of this was an injunction hearing. I don't understand if I'm not objecting to the injunction. I don't understand what the need for the next hearing is for. Why am I saying this? Because the guy had no damages. He's like, you're running an Airbnb. You got to stop. I said, okay. Like, you're kind of assuming a lot, but like, I don't want to run an Airbnb. You can have it. Um, you could look at the amended complaint. So this is like this horrible uh, lady, Claudia BONNYMAN. Absolute, like, just it's one thing for lawyers to be low lifes. That's to some degree, it's not legal, but it's to some degree somewhat expected. But for judges, oh, that's when like our whole system gets upended. Like when they're doing shady stuff, big mistake. But anyway, well, you should consider the amended complaint and consider that, or well, you could look at the amended complaint and consider that. And I just think if I was in your position, I would at least seek some legal advice. So let me just say something about this legal advice. You'll see this as like something that like they do this because they want to wear you down. This woman's been a judge for like 20 years. She wasn't even elected. She was like the court clerk, and then just one day they said, "Oh, you're like the judge." I mean, she might have been elected, but she ran unopposed, which kind of like someone should oppose her. Or I think she should be in jail personally. But anyway, um, so it says, well, you could look at the amended complaint and consider that. Who gives someone an amended complaint at the end of like like the proceedings were over? But anyway, I would at least have some legal advice. So the legal advice comes down to they wanted me to get a lawyer, and opposing counsel said it too. They wanted me to get a lawyer so they could run up a legal bill. And that's one way of injuring someone. So if these guys got together and were trying to be spiteful against me, they wanted me to hire a lawyer because they wanted me to run out of money. Um, I understand there's a portion added for damages, and then we'll go back to mine. I understand there's a portion added for damages, but there were no realized damages. I mean, there's a mention of $100 cleanup fee, but I think this is what I would consider a sham pleading at this point. It just meant to, try and ruin my lease and create a different additional difficulty. I agree. This $100 was from like they said it for some guy named Wally, like the garbage collector. The reality is, I never saw a receipt, and I asked for a receipt. I asked for a receipt. I never saw it. But anyway, back to what my point. I said it's just meant to try and ruin my lease and create additional difficulty, which is what it does. And then she says right after that, it might. It might. Holy fuck. And then she's trying to give him money to clean up his house and like for rent that he didn't receive because he was suing me? You got to be kidding me. You've got to she says it right here. It might. These people act with abandon. That means no one has ever checked them. Okay. So furthermore, after this thing has been going on for a little bit, at 4:25, it probably been going on for about a month now. Um, I said, Mr. Jerks, which is, the more appropriate name for Bill Jakes. As I may have alluded to in prior correspondence, I have no interest in remaining in the House unless this case is settled immediately. If you refuse to put an end to this circus prior to May 1st and allow me to return to quiet enjoyment in my home, then I will terminate the lease based on a breach by Mr. I meant Douglas Fisher. I didn't really know his name. If y'all wanted me to pay rent, dragging me through a protracted litigation was probably not the best way to secure that. I paid in cash every month on time as Mr. Fisher originally asked. However, this nonsense was overkill and out of line. It was implied at the start of my lease that I would be allowed quiet enjoyment of my home, which is true. These overly harsh legal actions, as well as Mr. Fisher entering the property without notice, which he did in breach of his lease, have very obviously prevented quiet enjoyment in my home. So, in conclusion, if this is dropped immediately, there is a possibility we could return to a normal lease. If not, as of May 1st, 2017, I will no longer take any responsibility for the house, and Mr. Fisher is more than welcome to take possession. Hope you had fun wasting everybody's time. So what do I mean by that? Like, these guys like harassed me out of my house. Period. And then this lady, their friend Claudia BONNYMAN, wants to give them more money? Like, I filed a motion to recuse. I had already outed the corruption of this lady. She shut it down after a reiterated jury demand, which is like hilarious. We'll get to a video about that later. Look at this. I said, stop suing me. Even more so, I helped them get tenant leads. Even after this guy's being an asshole, I still helped them get tenant leads. Why? I don't know. I didn't have to. They harassed me out of my freaking house. They harassed me out of my house. Honestly, like the way this thing progressed at the beginning, I was such a novice. I didn't understand anything. I didn't understand what my rights were. I didn't understand what hearsay was or evidence was. I didn't understand any of that stuff. Now I do. And looking back, like I gave them so much of the benefit of the doubt because I was trying to believe in like a normal, not corrupt court system. But this lady is corrupt as hell. She gave them money. Look, so let's recap this real quick, okay? Let's go back. She gives them a bunch of money, which is what I said that they do. I say, what the fuck? My landlord told me to get out. I told her that if this was, going to continue on, he had no damages. For him to claim this, he created his own damages. He harassed me out of his house. If he wanted a tenant, he should have dropped it. There I say, return to a normal lease. Okay. And that's it. So where this lady gets off, like, and I told her it was going to ruin the lease if they kept this going on. And sure enough, it was. Where does she get off giving them almost 5 grand for their turn of the house? So this isn't all the judgment. It was 4 pages. But just the beginning, I'm debunking this first one about this stuff related to like rent and getting the house prepared. This guy screwed up. He screwed up. He harassed me out of his house thinking he's above the law. That's wrong. If you have any questions, visit www.claudiabonnyman.com. I encourage you to view the motion to recuse, um, my third motion to dismiss, and then my response and counterclaim. Those speak volumes about what took place here. So that's it. That was just this one thing I want to identify. And in my next video, I'm going to keep going through this and start debunking it. Thank you. Have a good day.